So my name is Temi. I am a medical doctor, but I don't practice within the four walls of a hospital. I work at a health systems level. So what I do is the population is my patient. So instead of seeing one-on-one patients, I see the population as my patient, and I sort of diagnose, health issues at population level and try to solve those issues. So that's what I do. And the topic I was given to speak on was to talk about setbacks. When success, when it looks like you're failing, but it's actually setting you up for success. And it's interesting, as I was sitting down just thinking about my journey as a healthcare professional, the point where I was making the pivot from being a clinician to a public health physician, it felt like a setback for me because I genuinely, from when I was, I don't know, in secondary school, I knew I wanted to be a doctor. So, and I wanted to work within the four walls of a hospital. That was my dream. I wanted to interact with patients, and I really loved it because I did that for a few years. But it just didn't. It wasn't working in the way that I wanted it to. The system was just not supporting. Wasn't really enabling me. I felt like I wasn't my best self in the hospital, even though that was a picture I had of myself, right? And then I had to make a pivot, and it felt like I was betraying myself. I was going off plan. But I look back now, and I'm really grateful that I made that decision, or that somehow I'm here. And that setback is what I considered a setback, has sort of brought me to where I am right now. And, I'm just grateful to God about that. But so when we think about setbacks, I think we're thinking there's somewhere I should have been, right? You've defined your ideal place. And then because you are not there, you feel like you haven't met your goal. You've been set back. But what's the basis for which you arrived at choosing that ideal as your goal, right? Is it something that you chose for yourself, or is it something that God actually chose for you, right? What are you comparing it against? What are you interpreting as a setback? Because if it is you saying, I should have been at this point in my life right now, but I'm not there, and that doesn't necessarily align with what God has, set out for you, then it's really you making that decision and calling it a setback. So there must have been things that you have been seeing online. Oh, at this age, I should have been this. At this point in time, I should have done this. I will share an example of what I considered a setback, and I was sharing with the mentors earlier because we were thinking, how did you get this topic? And I said, I don't know. But, when I had children, I had to pause on my career. So it had to, I had to chill. I couldn't travel as much. I couldn't, do all the things that I wanted to do. My husband was still doing those things because he was not the one that was pregnant and having to take maternity leave and all of that. But I had to take a pause, right? So my career, I believe, took a pause, and this was like 4-5 years. So you can imagine what that could look like, if you think about it. If you were working full steam for 5 years, the trajectory you might have been on, right? So for me, that's something that I considered a setback. But I was looking at it from that lens, right? In that moment, in that one space, from my career perspective, I consider that a setback. Has anybody here experienced a setback before, or what you think is a setback? I can only see 3 hands up. I expect to see every hand. Yes. So everybody has experienced setbacks, and if we look at the situation, whatever it is we are calling setbacks, because what you interpret as setback to God might not, you know what I mean. Like to God, it might be the path you should be on. So setback, whenever you hear me say setback, is in air quotes, like setback, right? If you are sure that it is God's plan for you, would you still consider it a setback? Like if you are certain that God made me to go through this phase for the greater good, to give him glory, would you still consider it a setback? So do we see how, like, that's where sort of like the missing link is, right? If we're unable to connect where we are per time to the will of God, to God's plan for you, you will continue to interpret it through the lens of Temi, which is very flawed. Think about it. Joseph, right? There's nothing he went through that could have been interpreted as progression. But he knew that I saw myself, I was a star, the biggest. And he held on to that. So whatsoever he was going through, I don't know, I mean, when we get to heaven, we can ask him. But I want to believe that he was so convinced about the dream. It was so real to him. He knew it to the point where he was bragging and telling his brothers, guys, guess what? I'm the leader, da, da, da. He knew that this is where he was going to get to. He had that conviction. So everything that happened in between did not derail him from that big picture. Think about David as well. They came to tell him he'll be king. How many years? It took him decades before he eventually became king. And he went through hell and high water. They were after his life. He was hiding in caves. He was like crazy things, running away. But he knew that he was going to be king, right? And he held on to that. So for me, I think that's really what it is. When we are out of line, out of alignment, when we are not sure if this is where I should be per time, if you can beat your chest and say, this is where I should be per time, then you will know that whatever is happening, I'm not fazed. Personal example, when I was pregnant with my son, I was clear, like I already had, a sense of who he would be and, sort of what God was bringing him to the world for. But he will fall sick. And, like the boy will just fall sick. Sometimes I want to lose hope and just say, oh my God, this boy is always falling. Then I remember, oh no, he can fall sick if he likes to fall sick. There's still a big picture. So now I'm not, so when he's ill or whatever, I'm not looking at the sickness. I don't even, yes, I may be panicking, okay, running around, give him paracetamol, bring down the temperature. But I'm constantly reminded that where he's meant to be, this thing will not stop him. Like, you can fall sick, you still have an end goal. And that's one example of, so many things. But why do I have that confidence? It's because I know for a fact that this is what God told me about this child. And I think we need to get to that point with our journey in this life with God. Per time, God, am I in your will? If you get that yes, okay, I don't have food, okay. My business is not working. Okay. I'm not yet married. Okay. Dollar is now 1 billion to 1, God forbid. Okay. But you are sure that this is where you should be right now. And my husband always says something. We tend to hyper-focus on what is not working. You can be, so like this is my career thing, right? I was focusing on it. But I had beautiful children, family that was amazing, support, everything. I was not hungry. I still had access to help. I could still do so many things. But no, I chose to say, if I was working for 4 or 5 years straight, maybe by now I would be da 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 da. But it's just a piece of the big puzzle. And if you think about it, how many of us want to live long? We're thinking 99 years, 100 years, right? So you go through something for 1 month, and that will now shape your whole life. Out of your 99 years that you want to live on this earth, 1 month will now determine how you now call yourself and identify, right? So we need to really, and it's a trap of the enemy. If you think about it, it's the devil coming to steal your joy, steal your faith. Because that's what he does, the thief, right? But if you think about it, this is just one day in 100 years. It's inconsequential. And at the end of the day, it's still moving me towards my upward journey. So for me, I think, when we go through setbacks, let it not break you. Instead, let it be what would redefine you, renew you. Let it be that thing that will remind you that, God, you have told me that this is what I would be. This is who I am, and I'm confident in it. So even though I'm going through this right now, I know it's just for a season. Whatever it is I need to take out of this season, may I not miss it. But I know that this is not me. Because the way you see me is what I will hold on to, not the way I see myself. So how many of us are living here today with the commitment to go and seek the face of God for whatever we're doing, wherever we are right now, to say, God, please tell me, am I in the right? Because sometimes the setbacks can actually be self-induced. God did not send you there. You are the one that took yourself there. And that's why you're going through what you're going through. So it's really for us to go back and say, God, where am I meant to be? Am I in alignment? If I am, then I'm at peace. And then also remember, count it all joy, right? When we are going, even though I don't know about that, but yeah, count it all joy. But it's easier said than done. But there's no other alternative. We don't have an alternative. As children of God, we don't have an alternative. It's really to go back to the source and be sure that at every point in time, whatever looks good, whatever looks bad in the eyes of the world, what is God saying about you in that situation? And that's what we should hold on to. Thank you very much.